The smell of burning lampshade was the smell of suburban living rooms in the late 1980s. Hot dust on a halogen bulb. A teenager would find the curtain smoldering and the lamp still on. Number 22 on this list set fires in 2,900 American homes. Number 15 exploded across a Saturday morning kitchen counter with frozen daiquiri shrapnel in the linoleum. Number 4 on this list sent a Sears repairman to a house in Akron with a wet carpet and warm wiring underneath. The purpose of every item was the same. They were sold to make life easier, faster, brighter, warmer. The detail no one mentions is that none of these injuries showed up in the brochures. Hit that subscribe button. Let us count down 25 1980s household items that caused real injuries. Number 25. The wall-mounted electric can opener. The grinding sound of the Harvest Gold can opener was the soundtrack of every suburban kitchen in the late 1980s. A 5-second whine that meant dinner was 30 minutes away. The thing bolted to the side of the cabinet next to the wall phone. It was heavy chrome and Harvest Gold, designed to look modern, built to last forever. The Sunbeam Vista and the rival model 782 were the two big sellers, both finished in the Harvest Gold and avocado green colorways that ran straight through the 1970s into the early Reagan years. A unit retailed for around $24.95 at Montgomery Ward. The magnetic lid catcher never quite caught the lid. The lid would spin, lose grip, and drop into the casserole below. Now there was a sharp metal disc somewhere in tonight's dinner. Emergency rooms tracked finger lacerations from spinning can lids through most of the decade, ragged half-circle cuts across the pad of the thumb when somebody fished the lid back out of the chili. The thumb on the cutting board became part of the meal prep routine. The modern hands-free electric opener that clips on top of the can and unspools the rim from the side eventually retired the design. Every kitchen had one. Every kitchen had a bandaged thumb. Convenience came with a 1/4-inch slice. Number 24. The plug-in air freshener. A sweet, acrid haze of fake apple cinnamon filled every suburban hallway from the early 1980s onward. The little plastic shell glowed faintly in an outlet next to the carpet, working overtime to cover whatever the dog had just done in the back room. The thing ran 24 hours a day. The thing had a heating element the size of a thumbnail. The fragrance oils warmed and vaporized and seeped into the drywall. The family pack at the home center smelled like dessert in the box and like burning insulation in the wall. The little plastic shells melted right into the outlet plate. About 70 house fires a year traced back to the hallway scent of fake vanilla. S.C. Johnson eventually issued a precautionary recall of about 5 million Glade plug-ins units that had been sold from 1992 through July of 1994, and a second 2.5 million unit recall went out in 2002 after the company found a loose internal connection that could pose a fire hazard. The plug-in next to the linen closet was always a little warmer than it should have been. The outlet plate behind it carried a faint brown halo for the rest of the home's life. The smell of plastic burning never quite covered the cinnamon. Number 23. The Citronella Tiki Torch. Staking 4 torches in a rough square around the picnic table on the 4th of July was a backyard tradition originating in the post-war suburban boom. The thing was kerosene in a clay pot with a wick the size of a shoelace. A kid tried to roast a marshmallow over one. The kerosene-soaked wick caught his sleeve. The father sprinted across the lawn with a garden hose. Burn units in the Midwest tracked tiki torch incidents every summer. The wicks tipped, the kerosene spilled, the cedar deck went up. A house in suburban Detroit lost a porch to a torch knocked over by a Cocker Spaniel. The mosquitoes won, and so did the dermatologist. Number 22. The Halogen Torchiere Floor Lamp. The blue-white beam pointed at the popcorn ceiling burned at 1,100 degrees Fahrenheit. A single 600-watt halogen bulb seared inside a brass bowl 5 feet off the floor. Picture a finished basement in a Chicago suburb in 1988. Brown carpet, a sectional in oatmeal tweed, a glass coffee table holding 3 TV guides and a half-eaten bag of bridge mix. A mother and her cat shared the room every Saturday night while the husband watched the news upstairs. The lamp had been imported from Taiwan, sold for $39 at Builders Square, and put in every dorm room in the country. The cat jumps from the sectional to the coffee table to the brass pole, and the brass pole tips backward against the floor-length drape. By the time the family returns from a Saturday matinee of Working Girl, the drape has charred, the wall has blackened, and the smoke detector is screaming through the basement. The Consumer Product Safety Commission later attributed 290 fires per year to halogen torchieres at their peak. 2,500 fires by the time the recall went out in 1996. 189 deaths over the lifetime of the design across that decade. One thing I noticed in the recall data was the temperature spread. The bulb runs at 1,100 degrees, polyester ignites at 480, cotton drapes ignite at 410. Anyone who lived through it remembers the smell. Hot dust, scorched fabric, melted lampshade. The bulb was the cheapest light per lumen on the market in those years. The lamp had originated as a cheap Italian post-war design, then mass-produced in Asia for the American discount market. The lamp was also the only floor lamp in American history to require its own federal safety standard. The verdict was the brass pole that never quite finished its job. Halogen torchieres were finally re-engineered to a 300-watt maximum in 1997. The 600-watt originals stayed in dorm rooms and finished basements until the bulbs burned out one by one. Number 21. The electric carving knife. Plastic sheathed and used exactly twice a year, the thing came in a wedding gift box from the Sears catalog. The General Electric and the Moulinex were the standard issues across most of the Midwest, sold through the Sears catalog and the Ward's catalog respectively. The blades were two serrated steel strips clipped together and vibrating at about 1,000 cycles a minute against the breast of the bird. The father sliced and chopped and carved his way through every Thanksgiving until the knife caught on the turkey skin and skipped sideways into a thumb. The cord ran across the table next to the gravy boat, plugged into an extension that snaked behind the dining room curtains. Emergency rooms tracked Thanksgiving morning lacerations with a small spike every November. The blades were just sharp enough to cut a finger and just dull enough to make it ragged. The aunts kept Band-Aids in the same drawer as the napkin rings. The kids learned not to ask what happened. The thumb went in the dish towel, and the football game stayed on at 3. Number 20. The electric fondue pot. On a Saturday night in 1978, 4 couples gathered around a coffee table in Minneapolis, the wood paneling a particular shade of golden oak. The avocado green fondue set sat in the center, a cast aluminum bowl bubbling over a little sterno burner. Sterno is jellied denatured alcohol designed to be burned right in its can, and the can sat 2 inches under the cast aluminum bowl with no shield around the flame. The cheese melted and stirred and poured for 40 minutes. A grown man tried to grab the pot by both handles and discovered that the handles had been over the flame the whole night. He dropped the molten Gruyere onto a shag carpet at 11. The carpet was never the same. Hospital records show fondue-related burns ran in the low thousands every winter through the late 1970s, the 2 main injury patterns being a spilled pot and a sterno can that flared up when somebody tried to top off the fuel mid-meal. A fondue set retailed for $89 at Bloomingdale's, the kind of gift that originated in post-war Swiss-American suburban dinner party tradition. The CPSC eventually pushed manufacturers to switch from open sterno burners to enclosed alcohol cups with snuffer caps. The sterno tipped, the cheese coated the calf, and the dinner party was over. The burn took a year to fade. Number 19. The kitchen knife block on the countertop. Wooden blocked at the edge of the laminate counter, 8 black handles fanned up at eye level for a 5-year-old. The set had been a 1976 wedding gift, an originally European butcher block tradition put right next to the toaster and the cookbook stand. The funny scene involved the toddler reaching for what looked like a tiny black flag. Pediatric ERs tracked knife block injuries through most of the 1980s. The blades were sharper than the wooden block looked. The blades were also at the exact height where small hands learned to climb. Most parents had no idea the block was a magnet for small fingers until the first time a steak knife came out backwards. The wooden block sat there with one chipped handle until a parent finally moved it to a high shelf above the microwave. Number 18. the Jiffy Pop stovetop popcorn pan. Unrolling the foil over a gas burner on a Friday night, the stick handle warmed past skin tolerance in about 4 seconds. The aluminum was thin enough to read a magazine through. The dad who held the handle without a potholder learned how fast aluminum conducts heat. The dome puffed up like a silver mushroom and then split open at the seam if anyone left it too long. Burn units logged Jiffy Pop hand burns every weekend through the 1970s and 1980s. The foil also caught fire when the corn ran out. A house lost a kitchen ceiling tile to a foil dome that nobody pulled off the flame. A pan retailed at supermarket price. The burnt smell meant the movie was about to start. Number 17. The Salton Hot Ray Warming Tray. The smell of overheated electrical insulation crept across the dining room in Cherry Hill, New Jersey on Thanksgiving Day in 1983. The long oval tray plugged into the wall behind the buffet, glowing faintly under 3 foil-covered casseroles. The hot ray had originated in the early 1950s as a Salton invention, priced at $49.95 in its first year, and pitched at the suburban hostess who served buffet style. By 1983, Salton was an $8 million business with branches in the United Kingdom and South Africa. The hot ray still anchoring the line even as microwave ovens slowly cannibalized the warming tray market. The thing warmed the food and dried out the gravy at 400 degrees on the surface. The thing had a cord that snaked across the carpet at ankle height. The aunt in the Kelly green skirt caught her sandal on the cord and pulled the entire spread off the buffet and onto the wallpaper. The aluminum tray hit the floor with the sound of a small car accident. Hospital records logged steady winter burns from hot ray surfaces through the 1970s and 1980s, mostly forearm and palm. The tray retailed for $44.95 at Macy's and stayed on long after the holiday was over. Salton quietly added an auto shutoff to the 1989 redesign. The warming tray kept warming on its own. Number 16. The Crock-Pot left on the counter overnight. Plugging in a Harvest Gold Crock-Pot before work in 1978 meant a chuck roast that simmered and braised and stewed for 17 hours while the formica underneath warped into a brown half-moon. The thing had started life in 1940 as a patent by an inventor named Irving Naxon, whose original device was called the beanery and was designed for slow cooking a Jewish stew called cholent on Friday afternoons. Naxon sold the patent to Rival Manufacturing of Kansas City in 1970. A test kitchen employee named Marilyn Neal spent a few months running pot roasts and chili and stew through the device and concluded that the beanery name had to go. The renamed Crock-Pot debuted at the National Housewares Show in Chicago in 1971, finished in avocado green and harvest gold, marketed at the working housewife with the tagline that it cooked all day while the cook was away. Sales jumped from $2 million the first year to $93 million by 1975. By 1978, the thing was on every counter in America. The thing ran low for 10 hours and then high for 2, and then somebody forgot to unplug it before bed. The base sat directly on the laminate countertop, the heating element wrapped around the outside of the ceramic crock at around 200 degrees on the underside. Consumer Product Safety Reports logged Crock-Pot countertop fires every year through the late 1970s. A kitchen in Akron lost its base cabinets to a stew in 1979. A replacement Crock-Pot cost $19.99 at Sears. The brown half-moon scorched into the formica directly under the heating element became a fixture of every kitchen counter in the Midwest. The dinner cooked for 17 hours, and the counter underneath never quite leveled out again. Number 15. The Glass Blender Pitcher. The sound of crushed ice in a glass pitcher at 6 on a Saturday morning was the sound of every dad in Houston making frozen daiquiris in 1984. Heavy glass and chrome-bottomed, the thing sat next to the toaster, blades at the bottom turning at 20,000 revolutions per minute. The pitcher was a 5-cup soda-lime cylinder threaded onto a 4-bladed steel base, the whole assembly held together by a rubber gasket that hardened and cracked after about 4 years of dishwasher cycles. The dad who forgot to put the lid on poured and whipped and stirred ice and rum and strawberry pulp into a perfect dome on the ceiling above. The glass also shattered when somebody loaded ice directly onto the warm base after a previous use. Consumer Reports logged finger injuries from blade removal accidents every year through the early 1980s, mostly across the index finger when somebody reached into the pitcher to dislodge a stuck chunk of pineapple while the cord was still in the wall. The motor base also liked to walk across the counter when the load was unbalanced and the pitcher tipped off the back of the laminate more than once. The replacement pitcher cost $14.99 at the hardware store the same afternoon. Oster eventually switched the standard pitcher to a tempered Boraclass glass marketed as shatterproof, and by the late 1990s, polycarbonate had taken over the budget end of the market. The sealing stain never scrubbed out. Number 14. The Mr. Coffee Glass Carafe. The smell of burnt coffee on a hot Pyrex carafe was the smell of every kitchen in Boston in 1976. A glass pot with a plastic handle and a thin seam where the glass met the spout. The thing was brewed and poured and rinsed 40 times a week in every kitchen in America from 1973 onward. The dad who set the empty carafe back on the warming plate while he answered the phone watched the glass slowly heat with no water inside. When the next pot of cold water hit the empty glass, the carafe cracked along the seam and dumped 12 cups of hot coffee across the counter. Burn units tracked Mr. Coffee carafe shatter incidents every year. The plastic handle snapped off almost as often as the glass cracked itself. A new carafe ran cheap at the hardware store. The puddle stayed on the linoleum and the news anchor kept talking about the morning weather. Number 13. The Harvest Gold Oven with the broiler drawer at the bottom. A mother in Akron in 1979 pulled out the broiler drawer at toddler height. A pan of frozen fish sticks broiled 2 inches above a small face. The thing was a design that put an open flame 6 inches off the floor. The funny scene was the cat who jumped into the drawer when nobody was looking. The actual injuries were worse. Pediatric burns from broiler drawers ran in the low thousands a year through the late 1970s. The drawer pulled out, the flame stayed lit, and the toddler grabbed the rack. A new oven from Sears cost $349. The burn pattern across 2 small palms stayed for months. Number 12. The Fry Daddy Deep Fryer. Lowering a basket of frozen onion rings into 375-degree corn oil at a kid's birthday party was how most families learned what a splash burn looks like. Presto introduced the smaller Fry Baby model in 1976 and rolled out the 4-cup Fry Daddy a year later, both marketed as one-pot fryers that held just enough oil for 2 servings of French fries. Every basement bar, every rec room, every garage workbench in the late 1970s had one plugged in. A round white plastic shell with the lid set casually next to the toaster oven, drawing 1,200 watts off a standard kitchen outlet. The thing had no thermostat to speak of, just a single bimetal switch that held the oil at a factory-set 375 degrees whether the fryer was full or down to a ½ inch of corn oil. The thing had no auto shutoff. The oil fried whatever a kid lowered in. Pediatric burn admissions from home deep fryers logged steadily through the 1970s and 1980s, with the classic injury being a splash across the forearm from frozen French fries dropped into hot oil from too high above the pot. A kitchen lost a curtain to a Fry Daddy left on while the family went to the door for trick-or-treaters. Presto added a thermostat and a 30-minute auto shutoff to later models after CPSC pressure. The smell of burnt corn oil meant somebody was getting hurt. Number 11. The glass coffee table on shag carpet. By the mid-1980s, every living room in the country had one, a slab of ½ inch tempered glass perched on chrome legs over a 6-inch pile of orange shag. The thing was sharp at the corners. The thing was slippery on socks. The toddler who tripped on the carpet caught the corner of the table with the side of the head. Emergency rooms tracked tempered glass facial lacerations through most of the 1980s. The table glass also shattered into pebbles when somebody dropped a candle holder onto the surface. A toddler's first stitches were almost always from that table. The corners had no padding, no warning, no anything. The pebble of safety glass on the shag and the bandage on the eyebrow became standard. Number 10. The decorative bathroom heat lamp. Flipping the switch on the way out of the shower in a master bathroom in Plano, Texas in 1983 A father didn't know that the recessed 250-watt heat lamp in the ceiling ran at 500 degrees on the bulb's surface. Faux gold fixtures, a brown shag bath mat. The towel brushed the bulb on the way down off the rack and dried and smoked and finally caught. Fire investigators traced bathroom fires back to ceiling heat lamps every year through the 1980s. The bulb cracked when water hit it. The drywall above the bulb scorched a dark ring the homeowner painted over twice. Towel fires logged in the low hundreds nationally. A replacement bulb ran $8.99 at the hardware store. The brown halo on the ceiling meant somebody was getting warm. Number 9. The hairdryer plugged in next to the bathtub. You knew the routine in 1978. Mom in the curlers, the bathroom door closed, the hairdryer on the back of the toilet tank, the cord arcing across the sink to the outlet next to the medicine cabinet. The thing had no ground fault interrupter. The funny scene was the dad who tried to dry a towel while sitting on the edge of the tub. The actual scene was much darker. The Consumer Product Safety Commission logged hundreds of bathroom electrocutions from hairdryers in the late 1970s before the GFCI rule came in. About 18 deaths a year at the peak. The dryer slid off the back of the toilet and into the water, and that was the end. Mostly adults reached for a wet handle without thinking. A Conair hairdryer retailed for $14.99. The federal rule finally required a little plastic test button on every bathroom outlet. Number 8. The glass shower door. Slamming a chrome-framed shower door 1,000 times across 5 winters of Atlanta, steam loosened the hinges in every master bath built in 1977. The glass was tempered, but not always thick. The dad who tried to step out of the shower without opening the door first learned the lesson. The injury pattern was worse than the joke. Emergency rooms logged shower door lacerations every year through the late 1970s, about 6,000 a year nationally before the federal safety standard for shower glass tightened in 1977. The glass shattered into thousands of small cubes when a wet shoulder hit it the wrong way. The doors in older homes were originally plate glass that broke into long shards, a pre-war design that lingered. A replacement door cost $189. The line of stitches across the elbow lasted longer than the shower curtain. Number 7. The glass front fireplace door. A child in Buffalo on Christmas Eve in 1984 reached for a shiny brass handle and held on. The fireplace doors were brass-framed and tempered glass, hinged in front of a real wood fire, marketed as a way to keep heat in and embers off the carpet. The fire warmed the room and the brass handle warmed right along with it. The doors had no warning anywhere on them. Pediatric burn admissions from fireplace door contact ran in the low thousands annually through the 1980s. The hand stuck. The blistering happened in less than 2 seconds. The fire department in Buffalo had to free a 4-year-old's palm. A full door set retailed for $249. The mothers learned to keep a damp washcloth on top of the mantel. Number 6. The kerosene heater in the living room. The smell of kerosene crept into every curtain in a frame house in Bangor, Maine on a snowy night in 1981, the gas bill too high. The family huddled around a portable kerosene heater the dad bought at True Value for $89. The wartime-era technology had originally arrived in American homes during the 1973 oil embargo and never quite left. The thing put out 15,000 BTUs and a steady plume of carbon monoxide. The funny scene was the dog who refused to enter the living room. The actual outcome was much darker. Carbon monoxide poisoning from indoor kerosene heaters logged steady fatalities every winter through the 1980s, about 400 deaths a year at the peak. The heater also tipped, the carpet caught, the smell of kerosene never quite left. Number 5. The electric blanket. Every winter, every bedroom in a frame house in the upper Midwest had one folded across the foot of the mattress. A synthetic quilt with heating elements wired into a grid pattern under the polyester shell. The thing was preheated for 30 minutes before bedtime and then forgotten about. The funny scene was the cat who curled up on the warm spot and stayed for 9 hours. The wires shorted. The synthetic quilt smoldered through the night. About 5,000 bedroom fires a year were attributed to electric blanket failures at the peak. The toggle switch by the headboard had 3 settings, none of them safe past 2 hours. The brown scorch mark on the comforter never got replaced. Number 4. The waterbed. The modern waterbed had been invented in 1968 by a 24-year-old San Francisco State design student named Charles Pryor Hall, who poured tap water into a vinyl pouch as a class project and was granted the patent in 1971. By 1987, sales had climbed to 22% of the entire domestic mattress industry. A vinyl bladder filled with 200 gallons of water, heated to 90 degrees by a thermostat plugged into the wall behind the headboard. The originally California counterculture invention had migrated into the master bedroom of every suburban tract home by the late 1970s. The thing weighed about 2,000 pounds when full. A queen-size mattress alone exerted 47 pounds per square foot on the bedroom floor, which is why second-story installations sometimes ended in the kitchen below. The dad who tried to fix a leak with a piece of duct tape and a hairdryer dried the spot and warmed the wiring underneath. The actual scene was darker. The Consumer Product Safety Commission tracked waterbed electrocutions from cracked heating elements that bridged the bladder, the early generation of immersion-style heaters known to short to ground through the water and across the sleeper. Bedrooms flooded when the seams gave out and the upstairs ceiling collapsed into the kitchen. A Sears repairman in Akron once spent an afternoon in a wet bedroom with warm wiring underneath the carpet. The smell of warm vinyl and chlorinated water in a bedroom on a Saturday afternoon meant somebody had a slow leak. A king-size system cost $299 at Waterbed City. The heater an extra $59 in the 1985 catalog. The waterbed industry collapsed in the 1990s as the foam mattress and the pillow top retook the market. The soggy second-floor footprint took 3 contractors and a year to fix. Number 3. The garage door opener with no auto reverse. Did anyone in 1976 really expect the giant motorized panel in the ceiling of their garage to stop when something the size of a 5-year-old got in the way? The thing weighed 300 pounds and ran on a chain drive at 12 inches per second. The funny scene was the dad who tested it by sticking the broom under the door as it came down and watched the broom snap in half. The serious scene was much worse. Between 1982 and the early 1990s, the Consumer Product Safety Commission documented 54 children between the ages of 2 and 14 who died after being trapped under closing garage doors, plus dozens more who suffered brain damage or serious injury when the door hit them and failed to reverse. Most homes had no warning sticker on the wall switch. The door came down on a small back and kept coming. A Sears unit retailed for $179. The federal rule finally arrived on January 1, 1993, mandating a photo eye sensor 6 inches off the garage floor on every residential opener sold in the United States from that day forward. Number 2. The push lawn mower without a dead man's switch. Pushing a 4-stroke lawn boy across a St. Louis lawn in 1978 with a rotary blade spinning at 3,000 revolutions per minute and a metal deck that doubled as a launching pad for whatever rock the blade hit was a summer Saturday for every dad in America. The mower ran whether the operator was behind it or not. The funny scene was the dad who let go of the handle to grab a beer and watched the mower head down the driveway by itself. Emergency rooms tracked lawn mower foot injuries every summer through the late 1970s, about 50,000 a year nationally. The mowers also threw stones at picture windows and at the family cat. A new lawn boy cost $189 at Sears. The toe in the bandage and the suburb that smelled like cut grass and gasoline became standard. Number 1. The propane gas grill on the back patio. In 1987, about half the homes in suburban America had a Weber kettle or a charbroil 4-burner sitting on the deck behind the sliding glass door. The thing grilled and seared and roasted every weekend through the summer. The dad refilled the 20-pound propane tank at the Texaco for $12. The funny scene was the dad who opened the lid before he lit the burner, let the gas pool, and then hit the igniter. The eyebrows went first. Every Memorial Day weekend, a few hundred suburban dads lost their eyebrows in a half-second whomp of blue flame. The Consumer Product Safety Commission tracked propane grill flash burns every summer through the 1980s. About 7,000 grill-related ER visits a year nationally. The propane tank also leaked. The deck caught fire, the singed eyebrows and the steak still tasted fine. Drop a comment with the item from this list that lived in your house growing up. The brass tourtière in the basement, the crock-pot that ran for 17 hours, the Harvest Gold can opener nobody got around to replacing. Every American household in 1985 had at least 3 of these things plugged in, lit, or running at any given moment, and nobody read the warning label. The eyebrows grew back, the thumbs healed up, the carpet stains stayed in the shag long after the family moved out.